I might want to throw you a curveball here if you're okay
Do
with
it.
that,
I love it.
and you might and you can probably you might be able to speak on this more for the veteran side, especially with everything going on right now, 2024, politics and everything like that, right? We love to voice our opinions on social media. In the military and then the career and the business aspect, that, like you said, and to use your words, it can shoot yourself in the foot if you're doing and saying the wrong things on social media. Have you seen any instances where companies, of course, they're going to search you out, right? They're going to
Hmm.
look at your profile, they're going to look at your resume, they're going to look at your presence online, they're going to find out who you are about if they're a good company, right? They're going to do
Hmm.
their own research. Has there been any instances where companies have looked at, veterans or military members' social profiles and go, absolutely not. This guy is way too left, way too right. He's saying some, derogatory racial stuff. All right, everyone. Thanks and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Uniforms. We just had some user operator error stuff going on before we hit recording. So anyway, so today I have John Kirchhoff from Frago 22, excuse me. I hope I didn't butcher your last name. But John, welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us and speak to our listeners and see, a little bit more about what your business does. And from my understanding, you work with both vets and businesses. So yeah, just give us a quick intro and talk a little bit about your service and what you're doing now.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me. And no, you did not butcher the
Yeah.
last name, so
Okay, cool.
appreciate that. So it's simple. Here at Frago 22, like you said, we have a two-front system going on. Our main business is actually centered around helping other businesses develop, train, and retain their veteran talent. You see a lot of organizations out there that are going to help veterans find that first job. But what you tend to see, according to the American Corporate Partners, is about 85% of veterans, no matter how long they serve, will leave their first job out of the military within a year. And some of that is just contributed to wrong person for the role or right person for the role, but the wrong atmosphere, the wrong culture in the business, or a lot of the dynamics, the personal dynamics weren't out there. So you tend to see that a little bit, but also these organizations, especially the ones who are wanting to hire veterans, may not have the right resources or understand how the veterans think, how they work, and not really know how to incorporate them well into their culture. So at Frago, we kind of come in, we help them, those businesses develop their onboarding programs, and two, their leadership development programs. You've heard the adage, people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. So we kind of just tackle that a little bit, what it means to have veterans in your skill set, but also just help those nuances to reduce turnover. And the byproduct is an enhanced culture within that organization, within that business. The other cool thing we do to help veterans and these organizations is we do marry the veterans and the organizations up so we can help fill talent needs in those organizations should they need it, based on our talent pool, our partners with people like Seven Eagle Group and other organizations who help with the talent selection. And then for the veterans, we offer free coaching during transition. They get coaching, mentoring, help getting in touch with resources, anything they need, just free to them. Because you tend to see in the transition space, no matter what branch, it's hectic. There's a lot of dumping of information. No one's really there helping them sort out what information is relevant now, relevant later, or not relevant at all to your particular case, right? The TAP offices do a good job. They have to give you everything because they don't know exactly what you need. So they give you all. So we're just going to help come through, figure out what you need, what you don't need, or what can wait for later. And then just help the veterans through that transition space and help them kind of figure out where their next mission is in life and what they want to do, where they want to be, and their aspirations, and really tailor it to them.
Nice. That's good. You're obviously a veteran yourself. What branch were you in?
So I retired out of the Army back in 2022.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, thanks for your service.
No, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, there's a few things there I guess we could talk about. I guess we'll start with the veteran side, right? You did mention that the transitioning process is horrible. I got out so I left active duty in 2007, and then I did 3 more years in the reserve. So it was like just over 9 years. The transition is probably very similar, and it was okay. It did. I think they did what they did to help you make that transition, but because I didn't retire, that's not their mission. Their mission is to retain members, right? So the sources and everything that they had to help you make that transition is sometimes, like you said, confusing or it's overwhelming. Now, as for the veteran themselves, you and I have spoken to probably quite a few veterans that get out and they're looking for a job, or maybe they're starting a business. What are some of the things that you help them with? I know we kind of touched on a little bit, but like, what are some specific things that you help them with during that transition process? So I guess better question is before they start leaving, before they separate, right? Whether they want to get out, they did their 4 years, 6 years, whatever, if they're retiring, how soon should they start preparing to make this transition and start leveraging services such as what you offer at Fraggle 22?
So I mean, the kind of default answer that I always recommend, bare minimum 2 years out, right? What we as veterans, we tend to fail at, especially the enlisted side of the house, we tend to fail at networking. So we don't really think about that networking piece, right? We had a very clear-cut structure of what progress looked like, what success looked like, how to advance in your career. You don't really have that in the civilian sector. So a lot of jobs really are dependent on the network you have, the people you know or have talked to, and the value you've provided. So I always recommend right off the bat, when you get into your military career, you should already be on LinkedIn. You should already be networking, sharing your journey, whether or not you make it a career. But to kind of answer your question, at least 2 years out, because you're going to want to start building that base, seeing what's out there, testing the market. And it gives you time to actually figure out, or at least fluctuate on what you want to do and any certifications you may need. Definitely like career, using your Army Ignited for certificates, whether it be like PMP, CompTIA, Bixies, things like that. So if you're already kind of guiding towards the goal of what you may want to do when you get out, we could already start tailoring it that way, figuring out what certifications are relevant, what education is relevant, what classes you could take for free, or at least use your Army Ignited, your tuitions assistance, your DoD skill bridge, and those resources. So we really want to make it all about the benefit to you, the individual, and to maximize all your free resources.
Nice. Okay. Now that you've had an opportunity to work probably with quite a few businesses and companies to help them hire and train and retain vets, what are some, I guess, tips or some pointers that you can give to veterans that are going to be looking for jobs and things like that? Like, what are the businesses looking for, I guess, and what are some of the things that the veterans can start preparing themselves for to make that transition and make it smoothly?
So the big thing is, kind of like I mentioned earlier, networking. Networking is key. A lot of these recruiting agencies, a lot of these businesses, they have a default algorithm that looks through your job applications, right? And it's looking for keywords, it's looking for certain things, and you may disqualify yourself without even realizing it based on what your resume says, if it's not lining up with the job posting you're trying to attend. So that's where that networking is important, because you could reach out to these recruiters or these hiring managers. You could talk to them. You can open up discussion. One thing I do always recommend to my veterans is there's nothing wrong with reaching out and asking for an information interview. And it's just, you're talking to the recruiter or the hiring manager. You're just getting information about the role, about the company, the job you'd be performing, the expectations of it. And it gets you that feel, kind of, one, is that what you want to do? But two, is that the right company? And three, it gives you that repetition of going through an interview. And hiring managers love to see that, because it shows that you want to learn about the organization. It shows you're dedicated to understanding the nuances of the business, of the skill sets, and you're really wanting to succeed. So I'd say 90% of them love seeing that. So I highly recommend my veterans are doing that anyway. And of course, the organizations I work with, they love it. Like, I work with a lot of IT and data centers, and that's one thing they just love to see, that kind of, you're pushing forward, you're reaching out to them, you're asking the questions, showing that initiative, and they love it.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I've talked to quite a few vets, and that and it's a whole about the job thing and the business venture, right? And I think some of them, and even me included, I thought about this right before I left military service. Oh, you just having veteran status just put you on a whole nother level. It's put you on this elite status, right? And it kind of does. right? In some sense. But at the same time, like I think one of the harder things that I had to realize was that just because you can check that box on the application form doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to get the job for solely
Mhm.
veterans, right? And I think some people still think that they may not think it to that extremes, but they think it's going to help them just basically wipe out all their competitors in the application process. And sadly, that's not the case. I've spoken to a few
Mhm.
veterans that have lost to other people that that weren't veterans. They were just regular civilians. Um, as far as the company side, I guess, like what are some of the things, and I know this is probably just a loaded question or open-ended question, right? Because every company's different. But maybe like, what are some of one of the two things that I think a veteran could expect? I guess it depends on the career field that they're going into, because they
Mhm.
all, like most companies, know that there's the discipline, there's the camaraderie, and all that stuff, good work ethic and things like that. Is there anything else aside from that that businesses look for when they're looking at veterans specifically?
They're actually looking for that willingness to learn. They want to see
Yeah.
that you're coming in with a skill set, you're coming in with expertise, but you understand that there's a lot more you need to learn. One thing that a lot of veterans they tend to get wrapped up in is you may not fully understand the dynamics of that particular business, right? I kind of pick on my officers because they're notorious for it. They want to walk into these big roles because they have that experience, yes.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that exact experience in the industry, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. And so it's really showing that willingness to learn, showing that willingness to like, hey, I'm going to start a little lower than I would like to because I want to learn. I want to understand the processes, the industry, the nuances, so I could be a better employee, but also it's going to set you up for success because you're showing that initiative. You're also showing that you're capable of learning and multitasking and doing broader things. And that's what we excel at in the military. So let's take our skills, our soft skills from the military and show how we can apply it to the benefit of that organization.
Nice. Okay. And so you're helping the veterans, prepare for those positions. Now you
Mhm.
work with obviously both sides, right?
Yep.
Um, Now you mentioned LinkedIn and to start preparing, at least 24 months out in advance, social media, things like that. I might want to throw you a curveball here if you're okay
Do
with
it.
that,
I love it.
and you might you can probably you might be able to speak on this more for the veteran side, especially with everything going on right now, 2024, politics and everything like that, right? We love to voice our opinions on social media. In the military and then the career and the business aspect, that, like you said, and to use your words, it can shoot yourself in the foot if you're doing and saying the wrong things on social media. Have you seen any instances where companies, of course, they're going to search you out, right? They're going to
Mhm.
look at your profile, they're going to look at your resume, they're going to look at your presence online, they're going to find out who you are about if they're a good company, right? They're going to do
Mhm.
their own research. Has there been any instances where companies have looked at, veterans or military members' social profiles and go, absolutely not. This guy is way too left, way too right. He's saying some, derogatory racial stuff. But on that other sense, if you are the veteran, like, what do you do in those instances where you say, you know what, well, it's free speech. This is my social, what I'm saying? Like, we can go down that
Mhm.
rabbit hole. I don't really want to go down too far, but that is something to consider that I don't think a lot of veterans and service members consider is that these companies are going to dig around and find out who John or Mike is.
Mhm.
And me, when I was first starting, I didn't think about that. But then when I was like, because I always wanted to be a cop, and so when I started the process, like I knew like you had to be on your best, basically, you know.
Mhm.
How's that work for veterans
So with
and
veterans,
companies?
it's a little bit of a sticky situation, right? Because believe it or not, a lot of veterans are coming into the workforce with a bias against us, right? Different biases that we're going to come in hard charging, try to take over the organization, biases that we're going to come in with all these issues. We're always going to be needing PTO and medical leave and stuff. So we're already fighting biases. The last thing you want to do is now have to fight a verbal bias or a social media bias because of maybe something you said. So what I always recommend to everyone, not just my veterans, but everyone, think about the values you're posting. It's great to exercise your free speech and talk about things you feel and how you would do certain things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you start taking it to extremes, left or right, up or down, doesn't matter, or you start getting into those sexual derogatory things or politically derogatory things, you're going against the values. And remember, when the company's seeking you out, just like the military, they're looking to see if you could fill within their values of the organization and as a group, right? So yes, they will use that to determine if you're going to be a fit for that organization. So you as the individual, it's your also responsibility to show that, yes, I can have opinions, but I can also be respectful with them. I don't have to be hostile with something I feel passionate about, and I could have that open-ended conversation and dialogue. So yes, recruiters will look into that, and they will see how you are acting on social media, because I mean, even for my organization, right? If I'm bringing people into the Frago community, I don't want to be bringing in people who are going to go against our values or bring a sour name to the Frago name. So yes, there is a balance, and you need to be respectful, and you need to live within the values.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I'm glad I kind of threw that out there, and were able to give some information, because I think it's honestly one of the things that a lot of people don't think about. They don't think about like the posts that they made 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Like real good recruiters and real good companies, especially if you get the bigger ones, and maybe even some of the Fortune 1000, Fortune 500, and Fortune 100s. They're, like you said, they're gonna look for people that, one, fit the position, hold and maintain their values, but also represent the face of their own brand. And, you know, like you said it perfectly, you know, if I were to bring somebody on, they're an extension of your own company, right? And so like the veteran or whoever they're hiring have to think about, if I'm going to be an extension of this company, you're going to be representing them, and the company's going to be like, I want them to represent me in the best light as possible, while still maintaining, like you said, the freedom of speech, and they're valuing their own opinions, stuff like that. Because, you know, when I was in law enforcement, it was one of those things where they always told us, you live in a glass house, you live in a fishbowl. Everything you do is going to be watched and scrutinized against, and Monday morning quarterback. It may not be that extreme in some like companies and businesses, but the point is that, you know, the companies that are going to be hiring vets they're going to look at that stuff, and if they're going to see you made some derogatory comment or a racist comment or video, whatever it was, then, you know, that might be something to consider if you feel you've been posting that stuff. So anyway, just
absolutely.
Yeah, awesome, man. So if anybody, so business wise, right? If a company's looking to hire veterans versus the veteran, right? So if they're both looking for your services, what's the best way for either the business or the veterans to start looking out for you, or service members, I guess?
So the best way for both sides, really, you go to my website, frago22.com. As soon as you hit the website, it's going to ask you what side of the house you're on. Are you a veteran or are you a business? And it kind of just talks about the different services we provide on each one. Businesses, I prefer businesses reach out to me on LinkedIn so we can open up that discussion. We can start talking, you know, and make sure, one, what I can give is what they actually need, and two, to make sure that I understand what their wants and needs are and how I can best help them. So like I said, a lot of what I do for businesses relates to culture, relates to turnover, and that leadership philosophy in developing their internal leaders as well as their veteran leaders. So I'd love to have those discussions. The veterans, same thing, LinkedIn, the website. And that's how I can marry them up too. As those positions are opening, I'm working with these organizations, they have openings. Now I can reach into the pool like, hey, I have these job postings for these companies, you know, put the posting out there so they can see it for themselves. You know, they could go direct hire, they could hire through me, whatever the veteran is more comfortable with, and really just get them partnered up. Because that's the thing, it's all about success for everyone, not just one side or the other. And, you know, with the businesses, when you hire veterans, whether or not from me, I'm giving you your veterans a workshop to teach them how to incorporate into the culture of the civilian sector, because that's one thing that's missed across the board. You don't see a whole lot of helping these veterans integrate into that new role, that new job, that new career. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to set that workshop up, and I'm just going to make sure your veterans are set up for success in your organization, and they mesh with your values and understand your language.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I want to backtrack just real quick. We talked a little bit about what you did for businesses, kind of gave it a 30,000 overview. If you're a business owner, like what services do you provide for the business, I guess, so to speak? I know we touched on it a little bit, but if there was something that you wanted to elaborate on to try to get more businesses to use your services.
So the big thing, kind of, I just actually hit it, was really incorporating your veterans, building your culture and your internal leadership. Because I want you as a business owner, I want you to build your own internal leadership. You don't want people leaving your organization because they can't advance in it, and you also don't always want to be bringing in outside leadership into your organization, because it could muddy the waters and send the wrong thing to your subordinates, the people who are trying to work up the ranks. So there's a balance. So I'm going to come and I'm going to help you with that. Identify the reasons you have a turnover, and just we set the stage to make sure that, hey, people are wanting to stay in your organization, wanting to work for you. They're excited to come to work, do their best work, and really just excel your organization, because it's going to save you money, and it's actually going to enhance your organization because people want to work there. You're not dealing with turnover, what it costs you to lose an employee and try to get a new one and retain them. So it's just really building that culture where people are excited, they thrive, and they're going to talk good about you, because good or bad, when people leave your organization, they're telling a story of you, and you want that story to be good, not bad.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Do you have any last words of wisdom or anything?
But really, hey, just don't be afraid to get out there. Don't be afraid to talk to people, both veterans and businesses. Network. That's how 70% of hires happen. They happen through a network, not because of a job posting.
Yeah, for sure. Like that old saying, sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. And sadly, that's true. I mean, in any place, government, business, corporation. Yeah. Anyway, all right, John. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out today and explaining a little bit about your services and how you help both veterans and companies and gap. We really appreciate it, and I will put the information here at the bottom of the screen and in the description for anybody that wants to reach out to you for more of your services. Again, man, thank you for your service and your time and your retirement in the Army to our country, and we look forward to speaking with you again, man, very soon. I enjoyed this.
All right, thank you so much. I enjoyed it too.
All right, man, take it easy. Bye.
You too.